Whether you're picking and grinning or just picking or just grinning, grab a drink, pull up a seat. It's time for Roots Music Rambler. Turn it up. So we've got a lot of live music that has already happened in the fall and is still to happen in the fall. And I want to check in really quickly because we had Jess Bowman and Tim Parks from Manchester Music Fest on the show a couple of months ago to talk about running a music festival. Well, I just came back from said music festival. And let me tell you something. The people in Manchester, in Clay County, Kentucky, know how to host a festival. And nice. Tim and Jess do a fantastic job. And I don't know, the only festival I can think of that comes close to just the cool vibe that I got being there in Clay County is when I went to Rooster Tail in Madison, Indiana last summer. Now I'm getting ready this coming weekend when we're recording this to go back to Madison, Indiana to Unbroken Circle, which is, I think, run by the same people or a very similar type lineup. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting it to be, just as good as the one that I went to last summer. But I just hats off to Jess and Tim and the people in Clay County in Manchester. That was a fantastic experience. Shout out to Pat's Snack Bar, who let me set up and charge my phone. It was right by the stage, and they have excellent cheeseburgers and excellent chili dogs, and they gave me free refills on my Diet Pepsis all day. So Pat's Snack Bar is my favorite place in Manchester. No offense to anybody else. I didn't go anywhere else, but because Pat's was right there where I was sitting. So there you go. But man, I tell you what, it was the lineup was great. Here's how cool this was. I have a media pass. I got invited, obviously, by Tim and Jess, probably because we had them on the podcast. But I asked them, hey, if I come, can I get a pass? And they said yes. Well, the media pass in a small town in a small event that's actually free event to the public. You pay money, you pay $80 to sit in the VIP section right in front of the stage. Other than that, it's free. You walk up, set up your lawn chair in the middle of Main Street and watch the damn show for nothing. It's fantastic. So, media pass, well, that meant I could go, to the side or backstage. Now, I know better than to get in anybody's way. I'm just going to stand out of the way. And if I have an opportunity to say hi to someone or maybe grab an interview, which I didn't get any interviews, but I handed out some cards and I'm going to follow up with some people, see if we can get them. But here's how cool this was. I'm just sitting there at one point on the side of the stage watching whoever was performing at the time. And I turn to my right and Brent Cobb is walking with his guitar case. And I watch him walk out of the backstage area, out into the street, the downtown streets in Manchester, and walk down the street to the tourism office where the green room was, like he lived there. And it was, and nobody bothered him, and it was just cool and laid back and fun. And when he came back later, I walked up and said hello to him and talked about, hey, I'd love to get you on the podcast. And so we exchanged some cards and stuff. And so I don't know if we're going to get him, but we're going to try.
We're going to try.
But I walked right up to Taylor Honeycutt and said hello. We've got a mutual friend. I said, hey, my friend Derek said to tell you all this. Oh my God, I love Derek. And so it was just surreal. But it was totally cool. And I realized I did have some access that most people don't, but at the same time, they know how to run an event. And by the way, Bill Taylor and his wife, Trish, we had Bill Taylor and Joe from the Appalachian Heathens on here. Bill and Trish are the nicest people in the world. And when Jess said, Bill's the nicest person you'll ever meet, she wasn't lying. Yeah. When I saw him backstage Friday night, like he hugged me like we were brothers. And we just hung, me, him, and Joe and I call him Mr. Taylor. He might be my age, but he's Mr. Taylor to me. But because he's Bill's dad. But we just hung out, and it was like I was hanging out with old buddies, and we just had a good time this weekend. And it was so much fun, and I can't get over it. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, because next Labor Day, everybody needs to circle the calendar for Manchester Music Fest in Manchester, Kentucky, and just come, because damn it, it's a good time.
I'm all for it. I wanted to come down this past weekend, just based on the lineup and so many friends. Well, maybe not so many friends of the show, but We had friends of the show that were performing there. Not to mention Tim and Jess, who put the whole thing on. So as you were describing Brent Cobb walking down the street, like he lived there, kind of reminded me of the Crossroads Acoustic Fest that we went to last spring in Seymour, Indiana. I mean, the artists just milling about. And then even last year at the Evanston Folk Fest, I talked to Robbie Fulks, and I didn't have a media pass. They were just out with the people. Robbie Fulks, the Dean the artist. I don't even remember now off the top of my head exactly who I ran into, but that's why I will pay $200, whatever, for a pass for a music festival and get to see a bunch of these artists that, and half of them I've never heard of before, but I come away with new favorites. And, but just that accessibility and opportunity for interaction with the fans. And to me, that is so, especially nowadays when everything is so anonymous. I think it's wonderful that the fans and the artists get to just mingle, and I don't know. 16-year-old me probably would have died if I were at a concert or a festival and I ran into one of the performers,
Sure.
So I can't even imagine, but I love that. And I'm glad that you went and that you had a fantastic time.
Well, there's two things that are the common threads in the festivals that I've mentioned, Manchester Music Fest and Unbroken Circle / what was Rooster Tail. Rooster Tail's shifted its focus to more pop country, I think, this past summer, which I'm glad Unbroken Circle came in there because they've kind of taken the place of what used to be a really great Americana show. And that's not a criticism. They just made a business decision to change to Rooster Tail changed to that's fine. That's fine. The country fans go there. It's fine. No big deal. The two common things that are there. Number one is they're both small towns. Madison, Indiana and Manchester, Kentucky are small towns. Small towns run things differently. I will tell you that it wouldn't shock me if 30% of the population of Clay County, Kentucky was somehow involved in this show. Like staff, manning tents, providing security. Like I know the local sound guys who were running sound for the show. A couple of them were actually in a cover band that played the show, and it's a cover band that played like the pool halls and the roller skating rink back in the 80s. And then they went about their lives and grew up and had families and kids. And then a few years ago, they all got back together because there was a musical festival in town. And so they're the local fan favorite. They come out and play Southern rock cover songs. Everybody freaking loves them. And they're fantastic. They're called Deep South, and they're fantastic. They were great. But like there's so many people in the town involved in it, and there's so much local pride in it that it creates this community family vibe. And the artists feed off of that. And so Brent Cobb doesn't have any problem walking down Main Street in Manchester. It's not Main Street, but whatever street it is in Manchester, Kentucky, because you feel like, hey, we're all friends here. We're all just here to listen to good music and play good music and have a good time. There's nobody's pretentious. There's no egos. It's just like, hey, let's just have a good time this weekend. And that vibe carries over to the artists. So the artists are wide open and free. And I'll give a shout out. Taylor Honeycutt is the common artist that played at both of those, Rooster Tail last summer and Manchester. And I remember making a note at Rooster Tail last year. I was surprised a little bit. Silverado played that show, and Taylor Honeycutt and several of the other artists came out from backstage from their tents and tour trailers and whatever. And were just in the crowd with the rest of us watching Silverado. And I was just like, well, that's cool. That's just not something you see at big festivals. And so that small town vibe and the fact that it kind of emulates out and that community feel, crosses over into the artists where they feel like they're hanging out with their friends too, makes all the difference in the world. And I don't think you can get that in a big city or in a big festival. It's got to be a small
Definitely
town.
Not a big festival. Even Evanston Folk Fest, which I have coming up this weekend, as we're recording, Evanston, it's not really a small town, but it's not a big city either, right? It's its own municipality just north of Chicago on Lake Michigan, home to Northwestern University. And so, it has a healthy population, but I think too, and I think I talked about this last year after the inaugural Evanston Folk Fest. Just that, because it's a folk festival, like the type of music that is being played, everybody is just chill. Like you said, nothing pretentious. And, for that reason, it was one of the most enjoyable music festival experiences I've ever had. And I'm looking forward to it again this weekend. And then that weekend is bookended by 2 big shows with favorites and other friends of the show. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you want to guess who?
Oh, man, you're going to make me guess, and I haven't done my homework. Who is it?
Oh, wah, wah. Okay, I'll just tell you. So in 2 days from the time we're recording, I'm going to see Magnolia Boulevard again.
Oh, that's right.
Yep, they're playing Fitzgerald, so I'm super excited about that. And then next week, from the time we're recording, is our friend Gabe Lee. So he's actually playing 2 shows in the area. He's playing Sunday at the law office in Yorkville, which we've talked about. But I can't go to that because I'll be at Evanston Folk. And then he's playing another show at another venue. It's called Beat Kitchen on Tuesday. Cool. And so I got tickets for that. And I haven't been to Beat Kitchen at probably 20 years. I think last time I was there was to see the Bottle Rockets.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So, I'm really excited, and I'm very happy to see Gabe Lee perform again.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I got a really busy week coming up, and I can't wait.
Well, if you see his wife, tell her her security guard says hello.
I will definitely have to tell her. What? Reagan, right? That's her name.
Reagan.
Yeah.
Welcome to Roots Music Rambler. She's Frank.
And he's Falls.
And we're rambling on through the stories behind the music we love.
Yeah. And today, this is absolutely fascinating. We are catching up with country singer and songwriter Shawn Camp, whose new album drops the same day as this episode, September 12th. So it's a highly anticipated concept album called The Ghost of Sis Draper. And it is so highly anticipated because it was co-written by Guy Clark.
That's right. Clark passed away in 2016, but Shawn Camp was one of his longtime collaborators, producers, even opened for him on the road quite a bit over the years. Camp and Clark wrote a song or 2 over the years. They filed away in the Sis Draper project folder, and now almost 10 years after Clark's passing, Shawn Camp has put together the saga, which features 13 songs co-written by he and Guy Clark, plus 1 solo Guy Clark composition.
Yes. Wow. And what is it with these projects coming out by artists who have long since passed?
Oh, yeah. So I know, right? Like Shooter Jennings is releasing 3 albums in the next year of Waylon's old demos and outtakes. John Prine's records are getting re-released with alternative tracks. And then here comes an album half written by Guy Clark. It's kind of crazy what time and technology can do, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. But also, Shawn Camp, our guest today, is also a well-known and long-established Nashville songwriter.
That's right. He's written or co-written a number of top 10 hits over the years. Songs like Two Pina Coladas by Garth Brooks, which was a #1 hit, co-written by Camp. He also scored a #1 with How Long Gone from Brooks and Dunn. He was part of the 2023 Grammy for Willie Nelsons Country Album of the Year, A Beautiful Time. Shawn wrote the title song and We're Not Happy Till You're Not Happy on that album. So, yeah. Songwriting royalty then.
That's right. Absolutely. And we'll also have our Pickin' the Grinning segment, so make sure you stick around for that too.
All right. It's time for a refill. So we're going to take a quick break to thank the fine sponsors who make this show happen. When we come back, we'll talk Guy Clark with co-writer and collaborator Shawn Camp. Stay tuned. This is Roots Music Rambler.
kick your shoes off in the corner. Mama tucked them babies on her snug.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. That song is Sis Draper, the first and almost title track from Shawn Camp's new album, The Ghost of Sis Draper. And that song and the album are a collaboration of collected songs in the Sis Draper saga, co-written by Shawn Camp and the late, great Guy Clark. Shawn Camp himself is with us today to tell us about Sis Draper and the stories behind the album. Shawn, thanks so much for sitting in with us this evening. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. That's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. So before we get into the Sis Draper stories themselves, tell us a little bit more about the making of this album and how it came together, because I think this was like 20 years in the making, wasn't it?
Probably more than that. Guy Clark and I started writing songs in the early 90s, but we didn't start writing. We wrote Sis Draper, which was the initial song on this suite of songs, or however you want to say it. That was the first one, and that was in the late 90s, probably 98 or something. We wrote Sis Draper because actually we finished it the night before Guy Clark recorded it, because in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m, he called me up and we were almost finished with the song. And I kind of thought we may be finished with it, but we were going in the next morning at 10 a.m. into the EMI studios, the basement studio, to record the Cold Dog Soup album, which was one of Guy's albums. But he called me up. He had been rocking all night by himself, combing through these songs. And he said, "Hey, listen to this." And he quotes the last verse. It's like, so we are, Sis Draper in the song, she had left the pickin party, and so there was a little verse that was lacking, and I didn't really realize it. Well, he said, "Listen to this," and he's wound up on tequila and no telling what. And we're going in and 8 hours to start recording. He said, "Listen to this." So we all stood out in the yard, hands all full of watermelon, watched her leave and watched her go, wishing we was in that wagon. Yes, man, that's great.
Yeah.
Even though the rhyme scheme didn't match the rest of the song, it was totally a different kind of thing, but he had no melody to it or anything really when he spoke it to me, but it was like, yeah, that's it, and so the next morning at 10 a.m., I know he didn't sleep. And if you listen to that record, that's what we cut first thing. And we kind of, just kind of made the melody up for the last verse on the spot.
Nice.
And so that was 99, and we ended up writing another 13 songs about Sis and the characters in my family in Arkansas. And it all had a common thread of fiddle tunes running through it, So that's kind of what we tied it all together with.
Nice. Well, the next logical question then, which, I'm sure you're getting tired of answering, but we have to ask. So what was it like, aside from the Fueled by Tequila and whatever else stories, but what was it like working so closely with Guy Clark, who to this day is known as one of the greatest songwriters of the last century?
He was great. I loved him. He was a mentor to me and a big brother, and we were just pals, and we hit it off, and I don't know why, but we did, and I was on Warner Brothers in the early 90s, and they said, I had met Guy Clark briefly when I worked at a restaurant one time. It was like, that's another story, but anyway, I'm with Warner Brothers. They said, if you wanted to write with anyone in the world or in Nashville, who would you want to try to write with? And I was kind of shooting for the moon. I said, no, I don't know. How about Guy Clark? Just challenged them to get Guy Clark for me. And within a month or a few weeks, I was sitting across the desk from Guy Clark.
Wow.
And we wrote a song that first day. And it was a really good song. And actually, I included it in my second album for Warner Brothers that didn't come out for 17 years. It laid on the shelf. But the song was called Stop, Look, and Listen, or Cowcatcher Blues. And we had elements of Arkansas and elements of Texas in it, and it was a pretty good little song for our first attempt. And I didn't bother him anymore for 2 or 3 years. And I saw him at a wedding of our mutual friend Jim Rooney. And after the wedding, he's standing outside and smoking a cigarette, and he goes, "When you gonna come over and write another song with me, Shawn?" And I said, "Well, I'll be there tomorrow."
Nice.
And so after that, we just started getting together, and when we got done, we'd write down a couple of more appointments for us to get together, and it was just continued until he passed in May of 2016.
Wow. So I knew several Guy Clark songs that I'd, heard throughout my life and even my childhood a little bit growing up. But the moment that really kind of peeled back the layers of his legend really for me was I was listening to a tribute to him. I believe it was either the year that he died or maybe it was a couple years later on the anniversary of his death. And I think it was on Sirius satellite radio. But Steve Earle, Rodney Crowell, and I think maybe Marty Stewart, and hell, it might have been you too, all were sitting around talking about Guy telling stories and singing their favorite songs. And Steve Earle sang Stuff That Works. And to this day, that song is one of my favorite songs of all time, anywhere, anybody. Now I
was thinking about it today.
Yeah, it's a great song. I love that song so much. Now you worked with him. What are your favorite pieces that he wrote over the years? And I'll qualify it by saying, except for the ones that you collaborated with him on, like not Shawn songs, Guy Clark songs. What are your favorite Guy Clark songs?
Well, I included one in this Ghost of Sis Draper album, a song he wrote about his granddaddy, who was a fiddle player in Kentucky, called Coleman Bonner. And the name of the song is New Cut Road. And I think a New Cut Road may be in Louisville. Is that right?
It is.
Are you?
Yep.
Yeah. So that, I believe, is the road it's about, but I may be wrong on that. But the first time I ever heard it, I was about 15 years old, and I'd only been playing fiddle for a couple of months. And my dad and me were remodeling our old house, and I was standing on a stepladder holding a piece of sheetrock up in the air, and we had a little radio playing in the corner. And Bobby Bear came on there with Ricky Skaggs playing fiddle on his new single, New Cut Road. And that would have been in 81.
Yeah.
So that just inspired me to be a fiddler, and I didn't know who Guy Clark was really at that point. I'd heard Homegrown Tomatoes and L.A. Freeway, and but I didn't put two and two together and know that was his song for a while. And after coming down here and becoming friends with him and getting into this Sis Draper project, that's when I realized that song belongs in this pile. And we started working on it and working towards making a Broadway play out of this. And so I've got dialogue that connects all these songs together. A New Cut Road is one of them. And got lucky and had a great band to play, and we went in and recorded all these songs in one day.
Wow.
So that's pretty, it was like, I didn't want the mics to move or anybody to move. And we just, it's a moment in time, and it's a real moment, So the band didn't really fix anything. I fixed a few things, but I stuck around after they left, so I could comb through everything. But that happened August 22nd of last year. We recorded this album.
Holy smokes. One day. That's crazy.
That's impressive. That is quite impressive.
Work on it for 27 or 28 years and cut it all in one day.
That's kind of the
pretty
music
ridiculous.
Business, isn't it? That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we've talked about Sis Draper. You've mentioned the name. We've mentioned the name. So let's talk a little bit about who that person is. We read that it was inspired by a real person that you saw playing the fiddle when you were younger or, a little kid.
It is.
Okay. So could you please share that story with us about how this whole concept originated?
Well, I didn't know it was a concept until I was telling the story of this lady, Sis Draper, to Guy, and my grandpa used to, he knew I was playing music. I was playing mandolin at the time, guitar. I started playing guitar when I was 5 and mandolin about 7. And right about that time, I started hearing a lot about Sis Draper from my Uncle Cleve, my great Uncle Cleve, and his brother, my grandpa, you know. And they'd say, boy, you really better get to practicing if you're going to play with Sis Draper when she comes home, because she don't just pick with anybody. So they had built her up to, you know, a big superstar in my mind. And when she finally walked in the house with a big beehive hairdo and fiddle in a coffin case, opened up that fiddle and started playing Ragtime Annie and Soldier's Joy and Sally Gooden and, you know, Arkansas Traveler and all these tunes. And a lot of them I've revisited with these songs we wrote, you know, around it. But I was just telling him about Sis. I just thought she was a superstar, you know. And guy leaned back in his chair and took a big drag off a cigarette and goes, there's your song right there. You know, it's like, and so we started writing them, you know, and it just became a fun little game for us to revisit Sis and you know, before we knew it, we had a pretty good pile of songs. And
so was Sis Draper an actual like recording artist, or was she just somebody in your family?
She was a family friend, but she would kind of travel around and play fiddle at places, dances and stuff. I've got a couple of pictures of her in here, but no one's seen them. I could go over there and get them for you if you want to pause this thing.
We'd be more than happy to take a good gander at her.
If you got a set, you got 30 seconds to hold.
You go for it, because I'll edit the 30 seconds out. Just go get the picture.
All right, let me see if I'm...
Worldwide exclusive. We're going to see who Sis Draper is.
Heck yeah. We like this sort of thing.
I thought I spoke too soon. I had it under a piece of glass on the glass table over there. It was hard to get loose, but okay. Are we back?
We're back.
Yeah, we're back.
All right. Hey. All right. So this is Sis Draper here. I don't know if you can see her.
There you go. There you go. All right.
And I don't know the name of the guy there with her, but I think that she used to play with him. He played guitar.
Okay.
I think this is the same couple here.
Nice.
You know, Sis, and I'm not sure who he is.
I love it.
But that's Sis.
There she is. All right.
Yeah.
So Sis Draper is a real person.
Great.
Yeah.
And we got a
photographic
photograph
evidence
right here on the big podcast.
When I was about 8, I guess, we were at a pickin party at somebody's house, and she asked me for an autograph, and I didn't know what an autograph was. Yeah. And so that was the first autograph I ever signed in my life, was to Sis Draper.
That is such a cool story. It kind of brings it all back together. Yeah. How old were you when you asked that?
Kidding.
Probably 7 or 8.
That's amazing.
You
know? That's awesome. Man, this is just so fascinating. I want to play some more cuts for folks. Let's take a quick break so we can do that. When we come back, we'll get more into Shawn Camp's background and path to becoming a singer, songwriter, musician. For now, though, let's play Shawn's favorite Guy Clark song. Here's New Cut Road, and this is Roots Music Rambler.
Coleman Bonner was a fiddle-playing fool. He was a backwoods rounder and a breaker of mules. Coleman Bonner's got a wore-out bow. He's been playing 2 days down the New Cut Road. Coleman's little sister said, you better Now there once was a fiddling preacher working from the back of a mule. No matter where he was come Sunday, there'd be a preaching and a fiddling too.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. That is The Fiddlin' Preacher from Shawn Camp's new album, The Ghost of Sis Draper, co-written by the late Guy Clark. Shawn joins us this week on the program to talk more about the album and much, much more. So, Shawn, we know you were a longtime collaborator, obviously, with Guy Clark, but you're also a well-established and successful songwriter in the country music world. #1 hits for Garth Brooks, Brooks and Dunn. I think you had a recent Grammy win as part of the Willie Nelsons album a couple of years ago. It's kind of tacky to ask, how does one produce a #1 country hit? But Have you honed in on a process or a method over the years that helps you write songs that you know are going to have some legs?
Not really. I don't know from 1 minute to the next if I'm going to be worth a flip or not. If I knew how to do it, I'd be doing that every day, you know?
Good point. That's a good point.
I mean, sometimes I think it's just get, luck of the draw, the stars line up, or God smiles down on you, one of the two, or three, which is, you never know, man, you can, I love doing it. That's the fun part of it is making up a song, or, it's like, I'm not a gambler, but it's like, what I believe the thrill of a gambler would have in the middle of it all, and it's exciting to think you're making up a song that nobody else is making up. Nobody's ever heard it. And when you've done it pretty right, it gives you a rush that nobody can take you down that day. It's like, man, whatever, it's okay.
Yeah.
Even if you never make a dollar bill out of the song, it's a feeling you've got that's what inspires me and makes me want to do it. And, if they're a number one hit, now that is a different feeling. It's an exciting feeling, but it's not the same kind of heart kind of thing. It's a soulful deal to create a song. So that's, what I try to strive for is that feeling in writing. And if it happens to work and be a mainstream hit, that's a beautiful thing, but I get just as excited about writing something that I feel is good. If I like a song I've got a song called about the Great Escape of John Wilkes Booth. It's 10 minutes long, and I've got a feeling that's never going to be a hit, but I'm really proud of that song,
It's funny. I actually saw a clip today. I'm a big fan of Rick Rubin and his thoughts on creativity and whatnot. And I saw a clip today that kind of encapsulates that, I think, and tell me if this resonates with you. He said, you don't create art like a song or an album with the outcome in mind. You create it as kind of a devotional activity to what you do. And when you complete it, it makes you whole. Everything that happens after that is irrelevant. And it's great to have success, sure, but you do it because you're creating that art. And when you're done with it, you're done with it, and it's good, feels good. And that's the end of it for you. Does that sound right to you?
Absolutely right. Yeah. And I'm an admirer of his. I've never met him, but he's made some great records. I love that stuff he made with Cash. But, my buddy Dave Ferguson, whom I just left the studio a minute ago, Dave Ferguson was the engineer on all the Johnny Cash stuff for the last 30 years of his life. And but Rick Rubin found a way to make it really the way it ought to be, but between him and Fergie, Fergie brought a lot to the table too.
Sure.
But I'm a fan of Rick's.
That's good stuff.
Nice. So I'm not sure if you tune into the whole pop country versus real country, and you kind of alluded to this earlier when we were not recording. So, this whole debate, but what is your general take on the state of country music today versus the 90s, when a lot of people say, that Nashville sound gave way to more pop sounding music?
Yeah. I don't listen to it. I don't know. It's I haven't listened to much modern stuff. I think there are some good stuff. There's some good stuff out there, but I just don't. There's a lot of bad stuff too. And I don't want to hear it. And I've always Harlan Howard always told me to listen to what's going on in the market, so you'll know what to write for. But I don't want to hear it, and sometimes what I write is going to work in it anyway, I think. But it clutters up my mind, and I don't want to lift anybody's melodies or steal anybody's songs. If I'm going to steal something, it's going to be an old fiddle tune that's 200 years old, and you can't get sued over it.
There you go.
I'm trying for that, but
thank you for the honesty.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those conversations that won't go away, but we appreciate your take on it. And honestly, it's refreshing to hear that you'll pay attention to it, because it seems like everybody wants to jump into the argument. And my take has always been, I don't want to hate on anybody's music. If pop music, if the pop country sound even is something that you like, then you like it. That's cool. There's nothing, it doesn't hurt anybody,
I wish that the thing that I don't like about it is that they call it country. That's what bothers me, because it's not. It's just music. This record I've got is a country record. They call it bluegrass, or they call it folk, or they call it whatever, Americana, which is it's all made up terms, man. I just but I know that I'm a country boy, and I know all the imagery is really real country stuff. It's not trucks and stuff, which nothing against trucks and tractors and all. I mean, there might be a tractor in my next record, but there's not one in this one.
All right. Well, it's fiddles is what we need. There you go. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I know you are also one of the members of the Earls of Leicester, which is a Grammy Award-winning bluegrass band, I believe, inspired by Flatt and Scruggs. Tell us how that project came about, because you guys are still flying high. I think you had a live album last year, didn't you?
It's been a few years ago, but we haven't put out a record in a while. But we just played this weekend at the Earl Scruggs Festival over at Tryon, North Carolina, at the Equestrian Center over there. They've got a great festival. It's the 4th year, and they did better than ever. Huge crowds, and I played there. Actually, I was there with Verlin Thompson, my buddy, and Guy Clark's sidekick for 25, 30 years. And we did a Guy Clark tribute show there together.
Nice.
And also played with the Earls of Leicester. And yeah, we're a band. We only play Flatt and Scruggs music from 1954 to 1969, when the Flatt and Scruggs broke up. And we've got Johnny Warren in the band, and Johnny's Paul Warren's son, and he plays his daddy's fiddle. And Paul played with Flatt and Scruggs from 54 to 69.
Nice.
And he played that fiddle on all of the records. And if you ever watched the Bonnie and Clyde movie or the Beverly Hillbillies, that's the instrument, that's the actual fiddle that's playing right here beside us, that we heard on the records. And we've got Charlie Cushman playing banjo, who's as close to Earl Scruggs as anybody ever has been. And me and Jerry Douglas on the dobro. I do the Lester part, I do a whole lot of singing and talking like old Lester Flatt. But this hair, see, normally I've got like almost a crew cut to play the part of Lester Flatt. But last fall I was in this Civil War movie, and so I had to grow out my hair and my goatee, and I've just never been back to the barber. We haven't played a show all year, so this weekend we played one, and Lester came out looking like a hippie. So that's fun.
Well, now that you say it, you kind of I could see the Civil War reenactment character,
Yeah, I played in a movie called The Legend of Van Dorn, and it's coming out sometime this year.
Sweet.
And I played General Pemberton, the guy that gave up Vicksburg.
Oh, shame on you.
To the Yankees. I know it, man.
I don't my head is swimming right now. Your resume is quite extensive and impressive. And you mentioned Jerry Douglas, and I adore him. I've seen him a couple times. So speaking of this impressive, list of experience, normally at this time of the interview, we ask our guests when music began for you, right? You already mentioned you started playing guitar at 5, mandolin at 7. So you were kind of like a child prodigy, right?
Well, I mean, I wasn't the greatest picker, but I couldn't stop playing. It was like that's all I could think about, but we had a picking party one time when I was 12 at the house, and this local harmonica player guy, old man, kind of he brought his harmonica, but he brought his wife's fiddle, and he left it there and on the couch, and he said, play it if you want to. And so I scratched around and played out this old waltz, Over the Waves, da 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 da, before the night was out, and he said, well, you keep that fiddle and learn to play it. And so I was thrilled to death. I stayed up, played it, 2 nights in a row, 2 days in a row, all the time. And my mama got mad. She was washing dishes once. She said, you get in there, you march in there and get that fiddle. We're taking it back to Lyde's McDonald right now. So I didn't see another fiddle till I was 15.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
And so then I started, and within a few months, I was playing at the local VFWs and American Legion halls as a fiddle player.
That's crazy.
Now, that's not saying I was a great fiddler, but fiddlers are hard to find, so.
That's true, too. Wow.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I feel like I missed out on something growing up in the North, right? That like, I never went to a pickin party. My parents didn't have pickin parties, right? So I'm feeling a little left out. But it sounds like music was sort of a family thing, right? Sounds like your parents had people coming over playing instruments, and you were exposed to it and even and picked it up. So what was the moment that you decided, or maybe a specific person who influenced you enough when you decided that this is what I want to do?
Well, my daddy played guitar, and sang, and really, he was a hard-working laborer. I mean, he was an iron worker, and my mama sang really good. She used to sing with her friend Barbara in church. They did all these little church singings, and my daddy played country, and they sang together, and so after supper, instead of us watching television or something, me and Daddy sat around and played guitars. And so from 5 years old on, I was doing that, but before I could play, by the time I could walk, I was dragging his guitar up in the bed with me. So I was sleeping with that guitar, I still got it, So.
Nice. That is so sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now I want to take a topic we touched on a minute ago, and I want to kind of spin it a different way. I think it's fair to say you're more of a traditionalist in the bluegrass and country genres. And we asked about the pop country question, but I'm curious, what's your take on the state of bluegrass music? Because I see so many bluegrass country crossovers and even like new grass bands that almost sound poppy if it wasn't for the instrumentation. In a way, that's probably very good because it can appeal to a younger audience, a wider audience. But for someone who's a card-carrying member of a band created to carry on Flat and Scruggs music, I'm wondering if you see the growth in that direction as good or bad.
I think there's a place for it all, but I just think that, when it comes to bluegrass, Ricky Skaggs, he changed the world, in my opinion. When he came on and with Crying My Heart Out Over You and his earlier records, at the time, the radio was swimming with pop, country stuff. And it was just like, man, there is a God, and Randy Travis, and that all started happening. And then Dwight Yoakam, and that era of good country stuff was coming back, and good picking, and I was raised on Merle Haggard and Jimmy Rogers and Hank Williams and Bill Monroe and Flat and Scruggs and Johnny Cash and Roger Miller, and Charlie Pride records, just, I don't know. I like traditional bluegrass, but I don't like the key of B forever in a banjo that's slightly out of tune. That'll drive me nuts. Don't take long. I like country. I like Flat and Scruggs because they didn't play in B all the time. Bill Monroe plays up in B, and I loved Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys, and knew them. I think I'm lucky to have been involved and known these people when I did, because I feel like I'm kind of the bridge between the real people that created it, and the new kids. And I'm just thrilled to have known them at all. It meant a lot to me.
I bet. And so you said yourself just now that you're like the bridge, right, between that generation and like the newer one. So who are you listening to these days? Who is inspiring you? Any genre? What's your go-to or your inspiration?
I listen to a lot of J.J. Cale. I love J.J. Cale, and I listen to a lot of Stefan Grappelli, gypsy jazz fiddling, and Django Reinhardt, and I've loved Willie Nelson my entire life, so listen to Willie sometimes. I get on Jags listening to somebody, and I stick with it, Roger Miller, Merle Haggard, of course. And, I've got a new album that I've cut that'll probably be out this coming year, inspired by Johnny Cash and Cowboy Jack Clement, who I was Cowboy Jack's buddy for years, and played in his band with him. And so I've recorded these songs. A lot of them kind of feel like they've been sent to me from those guys from the other side, so
nice.
See how that comes out,
That's awesome. I love it. Well, Shawn Camp is our guest. His new album is The Ghost of Sis Draper. It's the first new Guy Clark project in quite some time, as the late Guy Clark was Shawn's co-writer on the album. Shawn, where can people find the album, and where can they find you on them there interwebs?
Well, ShawnCamp.com. Anywhere you buy stuff, you can go to Truly Handmade Records and get it too. Truly Handmade is Guy Clark's LLC and his family record label, and I put it on there, and Skeeter Bit Records, which is my label.
Nice.
Which is basically my laundry room. So
transparency in country music. How about that?
Love it.
Awesome. Well, we're going to make sure links to all those places are in the show notes. Shawn, it truly is an honor, sir. Thanks for hanging with us. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all for having me. It's great to meet you, and look forward to seeing you in person.
Awesome. Hey, the Pickin' the Grinning segment is coming up next, but let's go out with Magnolia Wind from the new album, The Ghost of Sis Draper, from Shawn Camp. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Rather sleep in a box like a bum on the street than in a fine feather bed without your little old cold feet.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. Man, I think it's safe to say that Shawn Camp might be the most decorated songwriter we've had on the show to date.
I would have to agree.
I can't think of anybody that's got that kind of trophy case going on with Grammys and top one, number one country hits and all that kind of stuff. And he's written and performed with like everybody from Bill Monroe to Susie Boggess to, the list is just crazy. How many people he's worked with. So
color me impressed. That whole interview was a revelation.
Yeah, it was good stuff. And I got to go dig a lot deeper into the Earls of Leicester too. I've heard several of their songs in passing. Oh, that's the Earls of Leicester. It's a good bluegrass band. But I never really realized it's like this. It's a sextet of all-star players who are playing.
It's like a super group.
Yeah, it's a super group of Earls and Scruggs tribute stuff, which, you can't go wrong with that shit. That's good stuff. So, great. I'm so glad we had him on the show. And that album drops today. If you are listening to or watching Roots Music Rambler on the day that this drops, which should be Friday, September the 12th, that new album with the Guy Clark and Shawn Camp co-written album is out today. Like we're doing this show on the day that it drops, which we don't normally do. It's not usual for us to do that. So,
right.
But yeah, we thought, well, this is a cool opportunity. Let's do that on the day that it drops. And so we did. So there you go.
Exciting.
All right, it is time on the big program where we have our Pickin' the Grinning segment. This is where Francesca and I pick a song or an artist or an album or something that we have been listening to that's been making us grin. It's our way of recommending new music to you. Frank, would you do us the honors of going first?
Oh, sure. So, okay, my quote unquote pick isn't so much as a pick as it is a plea. Okay, allow me to explain. And I don't know if I've talked about it at all on the show, but 20 some years ago, wait, hold on. I don't do, no, my goodness, holy guacamole. It's been more like almost 30 years. Oh my God, I'm old. Okay. So mid to late 90s. Okay. I worked in Yellowstone National Park. Okay. I don't know if we talked about that ever on the show.
We didn't.
But anyway, I did. And we can talk more at length about that later on. But anyway, so, it was a really nice community of seasonal workers. I made some great friends. Well, some of the seasonal workers, the first year I was there was 1996. And some of the seasonal workers had a band that they formed together, and they would play like at the employee pubs and within Yellowstone, or they'd play at like bars in the small towns outside the park. And if we weren't working, we drove to go see them. And it was always a treat, and this was before the internet. This was before Spotify. So going to see live music while out there was a huge treat.
I can see that.
So there was this band, and they called themselves Lick the Marmot. And I may have mentioned this before when we talked about, maybe I did. I don't remember, but who cares? So they were called Lick the Marmot. And there's one song that I remember, and I don't know the title of it, but the chorus was like, we've got to save the bison. And the bison is my favorite animal. It's like my spirit animal. I just bought a t-shirt with a bison on it. And so I was singing that over the weekend. I said, I got to find these Lick the Marmot guys. It was just such a fun and happy time in my life. And, those guys were a big part of it. And I am all about saving the bison still, and the grizzly bears and the elk and all the animals in Yellowstone. So that's my plea. If you know the Lick the Marmot guys, please put us in touch. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Wow. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do just for shits and giggles is Google Lick the Marmot.
I think I've done it and I didn't get anywhere.
Oh, dear Lord. No, I shouldn't have Googled that.
Yeah.
Is it? Wait a minute. There's a meme out there on their interwebs of it. I think most people mistake it for a groundhog. It's not a groundhog. It's a marmot that is screaming. I think it's in Yellowstone. He's like standing there and he just screams, and it sounds like this horrific scream of a man being tortured, but it's actually the marmot scream. I'll try to find that and post it on the show notes, because I think that's what we're talking about. If that is what a marmot is, I'm not going anywhere near that motherfucker, and I ain't licking shit around that. No way. But anyway, Lick the Marmot.
Lick the Marmot.
Yeah, that's a dangerous Google search.
Maybe do it in incognito mode.
Yeah, you probably don't want people. No, that is it's a marmot. It looks like a groundhog is what I would call this animal here in Kentucky, but in Yellowstone, it looks like a groundhog. It kind of a cross between a groundhog and a beaver, maybe. That's a marmot. Yeah, there's a screaming marmot video out there. I'm gonna find that.
All right, we got to find it.
We're going to find some screaming marmots. All right, so go save the bison or some shit.
Save the bison.
That's what Frank wants you to do. All right. I think my Pickin' the Grinning would be very, very happy if I called him a marmot. His name is Abe Partridge, and I saw him at the Manchester Music Fest this past weekend, and he gave me his card, and he wants to be on the show, and I'm going to try to get him on the show. His business card. This is Abe's business card for anybody who can see what we're doing here. We are, by the way, on full video on the YouTubes now with the big show. We're also on video on Spotify, but he is an Alabama songwriter, an artist, a storyteller, a documentarian, a producer, and a creative. Here's what I can tell you about Gabe. I think you would, or I'm sorry, Abe, not Gabe, Abe Partridge. Here's what I think you would probably like about him too. He's got Patterson Hood's linguistics, like his speech pattern, that Alabama, which is a little different because Patterson's North Alabama. Abe is Mobile. He's South Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
But they sound, the cadence, the way they talk is very similar. And they're both very good storytellers. And Abe tells these ridiculously, his songs are basically ridiculously long stream of conscious stories that are hysterical, absurd, political advocacy is baked in there. He used to be a pastor, a minister in churches, and he got out of that to join a punk band, I think. Anyway, Abe Partridge is a unique individual, incredibly talented, incredibly funny, also an incredibly nice guy. But I listened to him play a live set at the Manchester Music Fest, and I'm just like, I got to go buy all this guy's stuff because he's amazing. Like, the stories are just, I mean, and I'm somebody who loves a good sense of humor. It's one of the reasons I love Hayes Carl. Like, I love somebody who writes with a sense of humor. Well, Abe takes that to a different level, and he's really good. And I just want everybody to go out and listen to his stuff because he's fantastic. He's got a song called Alabama Astronaut that I would highly recommend, that you listen to that, and then listen to all the other stuff too. But he's an interesting character. And I mean that in the best sense of the word. And that's why I'm pretty sure he would appreciate being called a marmot, even though he's not really a marmot. But Abe Partridge, ladies and gentlemen, is my pick in the grinning this week. And you should check him out.
I've heard the name. Yeah, I've heard the name. I know people who really like his stuff. But I haven't really gotten into it yet, but I'm going to have to.
He's unique. And I think unique in a very entertaining and amusing way, but also with layers of, like, his political advocacy and whatnot that's layered into some of his songs is like, you're like, oh shit, he's not only funny and entertaining, he's got a point, you know. And that's hard to come by sometimes in this day and age. Anyway, so that Abe Partridge is my pick in the grin, and we'll make sure the links to Abe and the marmot screaming video are in the show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com. Oh man, I need a nap and a drink and then another nap. So
yep, sign me up. Okay.
Roots Music Rambler is a production of Falls and Partners, copyright 2025. Our theme music is Sheepskin and Beeswax by Gentacorum. Join us online at rootsmusicrambler.com and make sure you mash that subscribe or follow button so you remember to join us for the next hoedown and throwdown. She's Frank.
He's Falls.
And whatever you do, kids, ramble on.